Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are looking once again on the updates 1.97 dev server and well the second one, and it's time to have a look at a new Italian vehicle. This is the rank 7 battle rating 9.7 new Centauro, and what you'll do is you'll find it at the end of the line on the left hand side after the row more, which is, pretty nice to see that now we have an extra Centauro. As a person who has had a lot of fun in the normal Centauro, especially since it has thermals at 8.0, now to see an upgunned version with a bunch of other little spicy things to it makes me incredibly happy. The main difference between the other Centauros and the MGS that you see in front of you is that this has a 120mm Otto Melara 120-45. This of course is a very large gun. It fires the standard NATO ammunition that you find from a bunch of the other 120s in the game, and overall it seems to perform pretty well. You've got of course DM23 with 410, 355, 237, 1640 meters per second, which for me is the clincher. It's always nice being incredibly accurate with the DM23. Then you got the DM12A1, which is a 1140 meters per second, 480, 416, 240, and the DM33, which goes 1640 meters per second with at 481, 417, 278. And on top of these wonderful rounds that we see in front of us, we also have access to night vision devices in the form of thermals. We also have airstrike, improved optics, and a laser rangefinder just to try and top it all off. Smoke grenades as well, in the form of just 8 of them, and I believe they do drop in groups of 4. We will test that obviously in a test drive to make sure that you know what's going on. So what is also different between this Centauro and the other ones? Well, first of all, you have access to the engine in the front right here, 520 horsepower, 2400 RPM. You've got some fuel tanks and also the transmission at the bottom. I feel like this isn't exactly properly modeled. I feel like there's supposed to be something here, but it's just not there. Maybe it's part of the transmission that's missing. And as you can see, 5 gears forward 110 kilometers an hour and 2 gears backwards at 40 kilometers an hour is definitely nothing to sniff at. It's going to be quick, just like the other ones. Maybe a little bit heavier than the other one, so its acceleration might take a hit, but it still should be alright with that firepower. You got the driver in the front, behind the rolled homogeneous armor. It's only 8mm, but at least it's something, and the standard crew of 4, so 3 in the turret, along with all the optics. The optics is 8 times to 12 times, sight FOV 9 to 6, so overall pretty good on the vehicle. In a row, you've got the gunner and the loader on the left-hand side as you're looking at it, and on the right hand side you've got the commander. So if you want to shoot this vehicle to try and knock it out, and you're not trying to hull break it or anything like that, I think shooting for the gunner and the loader is the way to go, because also you got the first stage ammo storage behind them. It's only got 9 pieces of ammunition, but generally in a prolonged engagement you're not normally going to fire 9 pieces, generally maybe even less, so you should be fine with that first stage ammo storage. All the rest of the ammunition is stored in the back here with nothing in the front. And if we just look at its general armor profile on the outside, what it seems like is you've got the general chassis, which only has about 15mm and 20mm in areas, maybe even 40 in certain areas. And then if you have a look at the stuff which is built on top, such as the composite screen here, that's 50mm of extra armor. So my feeling is, I feel like this isn't going to get hull break just because of those composite screens, but it's kind of hard to tell without proper testing, especially since this is the dev server. A lot of stuff is subject to change, but generally what this composite screen would do is put it out of range of hull break, which is kind of interesting. So you got the rolled homogeneous armor as well on top of it, plus all the composite stuff, and also the high hardness rolled armor on top of that. There's just a lot of stuff going for this armor. Even the gun itself is 25mm. You also have access to a 12.7mm on the top and 2 MG42s, so a nice little mixture of technology going on here on top of everything else. when we have a look at the camouflages, you got the standard one, which is the browny grey, the desert camouflage, which I've never been a fan of at all really. I don't think it looks nice at all. And then you've got the tricolour lake camo, which is always a favourite, and also the winter camouflage. So you got a little bit for every occasion. Would be nice to see maybe a better forestry camo, but instead, you know, we're going to have to deal with the tricolour just for now, just running around with this wonderful little skin on it. Looking at the gun depression, you're looking at 6 degrees, not the best, but not the worst, and since this thing does have access, you know, to improved optics and airstrike, it also has scouting. So you can use it as a passive scout if you feel like it, and then just use the gun as a very aggressive piece of, you know, a very aggressive piece of well, scouting, I suppose. Weapon reloading, you can get it down to 5 seconds if you feel like it. Mine's at 5.8 right now. I'm pretty good with that. Most top tier vehicles at maximum will get down to 5, so looks like it is definitely in that ballpark. So what are you getting here? Well, you're getting an upgun Centauro with a little bit more armor, with a much higher BR, and that's the interesting thing. So the higher BR is always going to be the bit which throws players off. 9.7 is in that top BR bracket of 10.3 to 9.3, and that means that you're going to face a lot of MBTs, you're going to face a lot of helicopters, you're going to face a lot of stuff which will be able to nuke you pretty quickly. You'll also, with the expansion of way more machines, with this idea of lighter armor but larger gun and more speed, especially with the Swedish being added with all the CV90s, you're going to get a lot more mobility on top of what we already have. And we already have a ton of mobility, so you're just getting more and more and more. And that's what we're seeing from this Centauro, because the Centauro doesn't just have gunner's thermals, as you can see, it also has access to commander's thermals. So this is going to be a really, really good aggressive scout. Even though it's a massive vehicle, it's just nice to see another vehicle added to the collection of these lighter ones for higher tiers. It seems like when we got added certain vehicles such as the Ariete, such as vehicles like the Leclerc with their crazy penning rounds, armor didn't become useless, but it definitely took a back seat to general power of gun and also general mobility. So when you get a vehicle which does both of them in strides, especially with some of the best penning rounds in game and some of the best mobility, as long as you're not in sand and heavy mud, which of course kind of screws the Centauro, then you're going to be in pretty good stead. There's not really going to be a lot that's going to get in your way unless, you know, you run into them head first, which generally you're going to do quite a lot. By the way, the Soviet tanks exploding when they get ammo racked look really nice now. Just to put that out there. So, one of the other things as well, which was kind of sad to see with update 1.97, is there hasn't been a Italian vehicle added. And seeing one in the roster is definitely very nice to see. The fact that we didn't have one on the first dev server was very sad to see, but at least we know the Italian Navy is going to be coming probably next update, at least this year at some point, so we're going to have a nice expansion of the Italians, and they've, over the last year, been kind of pampered with a lot of high-tier vehicles for their ground forces at least, and with the air forces, they're still struggling for that supersonic vehicle. Hopefully that'll happen soon. And you can see that all the smokes fire at once. I just held it down for a second, or well, like a tap there. So unfortunately you only get one smoke load, but that should be enough to be able to reposition. One of the great things about the Centauro is, even though it's got good acceleration, it's also got great deceleration and reverse as well, so you can just move about the place. At 8.0 it works really well, because you run into a lot of machines which don't have as good mobility, but at 9.7 you're running into majority MBTs which do have really good mobility, so it probably won't be as useful as, you know, for those machines or against those machines, but, you know, you're just going to have to deal with it. With helicopters taking more of a backseat when it comes to dealing with the way that the matchmaker works, you know, with the spawn point stuff and things like that, maybe we're going to see more of these light vehicles take on a lot of the MBTs, or maybe we're just going to see way more aggressive scouts, which I think is kind of the way forward for top tier. We're already seeing it in a lot of other areas of the game when it comes to scouting, you know, these lighter, faster vehicles being able to go around with a little bit less firepower, being able to scout what's going on. But the thing is, at top tier, these machines aren't getting less firepower. If anything, they're getting the same firepower. So what's happening is you are not really trading a lot, apart from some armor, for some really, really tasty guns. So for me, I'm happy to see them. As a person who is a big advocate for scouting, as a big advocate for the mechanic, I think it gives you a different playstyle in the game, which, you know, a lot of people aren't used to, and it can change a game, if I'm quite honest. A few good scouts on one team can completely flip a coin. They can completely flip a game, because you can technically see where at least half or the majority of the enemy team is. And because of that, that's incredibly important. As a set of vehicles. So yeah, it's just nice to see. Hopefully at some point we'll see more of these along with the Centauro, but I'm glad to see another one of these beasts in the game. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I just want to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Daniel Stanton, Jay Wilt, John Ryman, Martinez, Super Cacti, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, and also Elove Goat and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.